Hello, everybody. Broadcasting to you live from the Orion spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, no longer Los Angeles, California, to be pseudo-specific. My name is Brian Engelman, and today is Monday, December 8th, 2025. The program that you have found today. Which one is this? Well, we did just have the TNAM Daily Show. That's where we rifle through the rubbish separating fake news from fact. But right now, oh no, that's not the TNAM Daily Show. Where's the logo? There it is, the Unhappy Hour Sports Show. Thanks for joining us here on, where'd it go? The New American Media, because the old American media has failed you. So on today's program, we have a special guest, Mr. Bob Frantz. He's been a voice of, reason in the crazy world of politics, as well as the deep-rooted Cleveland-centric sports that is so near and dear to my heart. We're going to welcome him into the show. We're also going to welcome you into the show. Let me pull up all of the chatters over on the side. Hello, John, Droopy Dog, Trash Panda, Lake Leon, Marion, everybody. Thank you for being here. Today's program is going to start right now.
Hi, this is Eric Metcalf, and you're watching the Unhappy Hour.
All right. Bob Frantz has entered the building, Mr. Bob Frantz. Good to have you back. We talked with you about a year ago. It was shortly after the failed deep state plot to remove President Trump in Butler last year, I believe. We talked to you July, August.
Right. Yeah, it was late July, I think. Yeah. It's been
how the world has changed since then. Let's get this out of the way real quick. What is the latest with you? Things have changed. You're, in your words, where are you? And tell us the story.
Well, for anybody who, I don't know how much our audience crosses over, so I don't want to belabor and bore people with what they already know. If most people watching us already know, but yeah, I've been on radio for 28 years in about 4 different cities, 4 different stations, and actually 5 stations because 2 in this city. But yeah, corporate radio, for lack of a better way of saying it, corporate radio just sucks. And it's easy for me to say that now. Anybody watching, that's because you just got kicked out of corporate radio. Well, that's one of the reasons it sucks. Is cancel culture is alive and well. Just because Elon bought X and stopped the radicals from canceling every account, that didn't say yes, men can give birth, doesn't mean cancel culture isn't still there. There is a very, very I don't want to say American, but it's kind of anti-American, but certainly an anti-conservative viewpoint out there that if you go too hardcore on the 3 F's, faith, family, and freedom, some people get uncomfortable with that and they want moderation to be the rule of the day. See, I'm a guy, and for those who don't know anything about me at all, I spent probably the first 15 years of my 28 years doing radio in sports radio. So I was, all the stuff you do, Brian, I just have been all over. I've worked for the Cleveland Browns. I've worked for the Cleveland Indians. I did television for the Cleveland Cavaliers, pre, post, and halftime shows with Campy Russell. I've been all about. I worked for the Oakland Raiders. I moved to California and I was a sideline reporter with the Raiders. I've done all kinds of sports stuff and was all over it. And then I kind of transitioned into kind of a combination of sports and current events, news and politics, and then basically transitioned all the way into just kind of all politics and things of that nature now. And what we have found, and what I have found really since 2016, ever since Donald Trump won his first presidential election, is that MAGA, which took over, and America First, which took over, it supplanted moderate conservatism in the country's orbit. Really, in all political orbit, and there are so many really, really soft, squishy moderates who cannot wait to get rid of the MAGA Trumpian type of republicanism, and they want squishy moderate stuff again. And guess what? That lives in so much of corporate radio. There's a long answer to the question to get to corporate radio is just something I would never get involved with again. If somebody calls me and says, "Hey, will you take this show or that show?" No. So I want to do radio where I decide what I talk about, how I address it, how I approach it, how hardcore conservative, because I don't believe in fighting, bringing a knife to a gunfight, as the old saying goes. I'm going to bring a gun to a gunfight. And if the left is going to go so radical and put our country in as much jeopardy as they are, I'm not going to go moderate in return. I'm going to go radical, hardcore right in return, because quite frankly, there is no radicalism to hardcore right. Hardcore right is simply foundational principles of this republic. And so that's what I do for a living. And now that I've been pushed out of my last corporate radio position that I've held for the last 11 years, I'm doing what you're doing right now. I'm taking the show online. I want to grow it. I want to explode it. I had a phenomenal reach with what I was already doing on corporate radio, but like I said, I now can do things that we could never do before. So it isn't even launched yet, but I'm going to ask your listeners and your viewers to follow me on Rumble. I'm going to do it on Rumble. That's where it's going to kick off. It's probably going to end up being on a whole lot of platforms, but we're going to start out on Rumble very soon. And I'm talking like within the next few days before we do our first show. Not a weekly show, a daily show from about 10 a.m. to noon Eastern time. It's going to be called Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. That was the name. You can see it over my shoulder. Strictly Speaking with Bob Frantz is the name of the radio show. But this is going to be, because it's online, it's going to be Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. And it's going to come to Rumble. And we want to make it grow. I have not used Rumble in any measurable way whatsoever. I've dumped videos there for the last year or so, not really paying any attention to anything else, not really promoting them. And I think I've got maybe 400 or 500 subscribers or followers or whatever on Rumble right now. In a month, I need that to be 4,000 or 5,000. And we need to grow this up with patriots who care and who want to hear from the same, I don't talk to janitors from Capitol Hill. I talk to senators. I talk to members of Congress. I talk to committee chairs. I talk to people in the Ohio State House and in the Ohio Senate, and we bring everything that needs to be discussed to the forefront. And sometimes they're hard conversations, and sometimes they're really educational conversations. But Brian, I'm committed to it. I'm passionate about it. And they can take my microphone and they can take my freaking time slot on corporate radio, but they are not taking my voice, and they are not taking the passion that I am bringing to saving, literally, not just me. I wish I had that power, but joining a whole lot of other people who do what I do, saving this republic from imminent extinction, quite frankly. And that doesn't mean people would just be wiped out, but I mean, as we know, this free country, this republic, it will be gone if we don't do what we do. So that's a very long answer to an opening question. But like I said, I don't know how much your folks, your viewers know what I do. So I just wanted to get it out there.
The Rumble channel is Strictly Speaking. There was a third word.
Unfiltered.
Unfiltered. Strictly Speaking.
If you just search, I think it's actually Strictly Speaking with Bob Frantz, but I've got a new logo that we're debuting. I should have shared it with you. There's a new logo, and it's I think it's probably going to ultimately be say on there Strictly Speaking. Hold on, maybe I can even pull it up on my side. I know you can't see it, but do I already have it?
Yeah, and you have the ability to share.
I do, yeah. Strictly Speaking Unfiltered with Bob Frantz. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Okay, and by the way, you also have the ability to share tabs on your side. You just click the plus button down here.
Well, how cool is that?
So if you have it, click the plus button, and then it'll give you the drop down menu of which tabs you want to share. And then I would just click the button on my side to bring it in. Yeah, we are trying this out. Bob, you've been on that terrestrial radio, the syndicated radio, the old school radio thing for a while. But yeah, I mean, we were deleted by Meta. They took down the New American Media Facebook page. No explanation, no opportunity to remedy any alleged issue, no customer service, no conversation, just deleted. They took down my personal account twice. YouTube took away my monetization. I mean, we've been doing 1,900 videos over 14 and a half years, and they just erased us. So you know what we did?
I've heard that story from many, many people.
We said double-barreled middle fingers like we were working at Cinnabon. We just gave double-barreled middle fingers and said, I'm going to go on Patreon. I'm going to open up a Rumble. I'm going to get on Locals. I'm going to get on X. I'm going to get on whatever it is. We're going to be out there doing it. Somebody can find us, but I'm not going to be beholden to beholden to YouTube anymore. I'm not going to let Meta silence. Oh, well, I lost all my audience. Okay, I'm going to rebuild. Okay, you took out my legs, but I'm going to stand back up like Mendoza in that first series. God.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Knocked him down. I actually, as
I thought he was out of the game.
No.
I thought they separated his throwing shoulder because when they showed the hit again and he was laying there writhing and I thought, oh my God, they just ended the game on play one. The Heisman Trophy contending quarterback is gone and done. But
I actually yelled out no because I want to go up against the best. I don't fear any team. If we're the best, we got to prove it. I didn't want him to be hurt. It was a great play, but that's what they tried to do to me. They knocked me down. They knocked you down. They knocked, like you said, all the people that you hear this story 1,000 times. Tech tried to destroy us. Biden, Obama, that whole regime for the better part of 20 years have been attacking us because we're not going to say 2 + 2 = 5. We're not going to fucking do it. I refuse. And I'm going to talk sports some days. I don't have to ask somebody, is it okay if I have an opinion like this? I don't want to lose the sleep number. I don't want to lose the Peloton advertising revenue. Ugh. I don't know if you ever heard, what's that comedian that does that show? I can see him, but he talks about Peloton. He was talking with, I'm missing Theo Vaughn was on with Dana White. And he told Dana White about how Peloton said, I don't like what you did or that you had President Trump. Delete that episode or else we're going to remove our sponsorship. And Dana White goes, oh, really? Okay. He goes, Peloton, huh? He called right then and there, and he told, I want all of our Peloton stuff removed from all of our UFC facilities immediately. Sell them on the secondhand market, dump them on the sidewalk. I don't fucking care. Nobody's going to come in here and tell you what you can and can't talk about. And that's the beauty of Rumble, YouTube. We only have our balls in our word, said Scarface, and I don't break them for anybody, Yeah.
No. And I love Dana, by the way, that he said that. And but going back to what started that was Meta, the whole Meta thing. I am so freaking pissed at Meta / Instagram / Rumble. I started using Instagram. I mean, like literally using it for about a year ago. Okay. I had an Instagram account. And I would occasionally post a picture. It would get like 2 people see it. It's not being pushed out. Maybe one person would react to it or whatever. Usually somebody, a friend, family, but I didn't care because I didn't need it for anything. Well, about a year ago, I started doing videos. I started doing Bob Frantz road rants, mostly on political things. In fact,
and I do watch those. They're fun when they pop up if they allow me to see your content, which that's a whole other story.
And for the first, again, few months or whatever, it would be seen by maybe 75 people. Now, it says I've got 3,000 or 4,000 followers. How come it's only being seen by 75 people or whatever it is? And I don't know what it is. I still don't know to this day what it is. But eventually, I started getting traction. And I would get, 900 or 1,000 views. Sometimes I would get 4,000 or 5,000 views. And these, again, are mostly just me ranting or sometimes pulling up videos of popular things that are on the news, playing it and then ranting about it or whatever, but just the reels. And suddenly, one of them caught, 12,000 people saw that one. And then another one, 23,000 people. And then I've got one on there now that I just recorded right before the end of the federal shutdown. And I know we're supposed to be talking about sports here, and we should get back to that.
Our worlds collide, Jerry. Our worlds are colliding, Jerry.
Beautiful. Love that reference. But in all seriousness, I did one about how insane it was. And by the way, they're about to do it again now, not with the shutdown, but with the end of the year, because the Obamacare subsidies are going to expire. The extended subsidies that they did back during COVID under Biden. And I just in my truck, and that's how I do it. Whenever I just got thoughts popped into my head, usually when I'm listening to the radio, somebody will say something and I'll say, that's not right. And because I always, when I go, I have my camera mounted and then I'll click it on and I'll just rant and that's it. And I ranted and I explained, I used the old Denzel Washington line from Philadelphia. I explained this to me like I'm a 6-year-old. And I said, let me explain this like we're 6-year-olds. This is the way it went down. And one of these, how dare these bastards try to blame it on Republicans when it was literally, the Democrats from start to finish, all the way up to when this subsidy expiration on December 31st is going to be. So I put that on there. And Brian, it caught fire like nothing I've ever seen before. 24 hours later, it had like 64,000 views. Another 12 hours later, it had 91,000 views. A day and a half later, I had 1.5 million views, and now it's sitting there with 2.3 million views. I have a couple of other ones. One of them was after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And it wasn't me. It was Kayleigh McEnany, but I posted it and I put a couple of things on it, how you have to do, making it my own. It got 1.7 million views. And another one of John Kennedy, Senator John Kennedy, that's got about 1 million views. And guess how much money Meta allowed me to monetize for that? 0.0. Why? And again, and I've got a few with a few 100,000 now. Like I said, whatever code had to be cracked was cracked. I still don't know what it was, but they say monetization is limited for this account because of whatever community standards, violations in previous videos that have nothing.
Violations of the Democrat Party platform is what that means.
Thank you. Yes, exactly that. But in Meta world, you can't ask them, what did I do? How can I fix it? How can I get back on a page?
Zero communication with that company.
All you can talk to is their bots. Mm-hmm. And they say, oh, you can submit an appeal. And then their bot says, yeah, we struck it for a reason. It's still struck. So it's a long way of me just bitching and crying. And I just cannot stand the cancellation. They will do whatever they can. Because guess what that does? That incentivizes me to say big double middle fingers to them and not even try to load it. I'll upload it somewhere else. But that's where I have my biggest viewership and following. I got about 30,000 followers or whatever. And when I get stuff cooking, and by the way, after I did that one Obamacare one, or the healthcare subsidies one, I went from 5,000 followers on Instagram to 20,000. I got 21,000 on Instagram. And so I should be able to monetize those. I should be able to say, here's my voice, here's what I want to say. People obviously want to hear it. That's why they went ahead and followed. But there's no profit in it. There's no way for me to actually build something, the way so many influencers do. And so I've just had it with the big corporate pieces of crap. And that's the reason why I'm all about, like I said, Rumble over YouTube. And I know YouTube has changed. You were telling me off the air about this, but I just know too many conservative commentators who have gotten strike, and suddenly demonetized by YouTube, just the way Facebook has done to me. So I'm looking for a way to get my stuff out there unfiltered and punished, which is what I am whenever I give my viewpoints on these things, which I don't go out there and do any crazy Candace Owens shit and say that TPUSA killed Charlie Kirk, which is just, that's batshit crazy stuff. If I did those things, that's a pretty gutsy thing to say, and it could be borderline defamation of character of some people, if not over the line of defamation. And we're talking slander here. I don't do any of that. I just give hardcore opinions that sometimes the radical left disagrees with in a hardcore way, and I get punished for it. So that's the reason I'm going to Rumble to start my show, man. And again, I'm sorry, I'm really dominating this conversation.
No. There's no apologies ever needed. Like, this is what we do. Like, it's about unpacking it. And some of it is, pressing that button, whether you're filling up a tire and you check the PSI and it's a little too hot. You got to let some of that out. We got to let some of this shit out, man. Like,
well, not to mention, plus
my life to this stuff, and I've been kneecapped at every turn, Bob. Every turn I've been kneecapped. It still hasn't stopped me, but damn it, wouldn't it be great if I could consider this to be the cornerstone that handles the monthly expense? It's a labor of love. I haven't necessarily figured out how to crack the code, because to me, it seems like there's about 50 to 100 influencers that are allowed to make money. Nobody else is. Not to disparage Tim Pool or Anomaly or some of my buddies or people I've met, crossed paths with, or the people that are crushing it. Good for them. But where's any crumbs for literally anybody else trying to do it? If you're on
and they're out there because the consumers far outnumber the influencers. I mean, there is an appetite for it, so there should be plenty of room for everybody at the trough, and for a guy like me. And by the way, I think that's why I'm talking so much, is because it was 1 week ago today I took the prison shiv to the back, and so I've had a week of not being able to say what needs to be said, and so here I am.
Epstein, essentially, you got Epsteined.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Yeah.
Unless he's on an island somewhere, who knows?
But so the point is, and because that happened to me, I am ready to monetize now, because I need to generate income that was lost through the corporate, ship I took. So bottom line is I'm looking for that. And anybody wants to be a part of what I'm talking about and listen to some of these, I mean, I'm able to pull in like you do. You showed me that reel of yours of some of the people you've talked to, but I can get one-on-one interviews with the most power. I mean, with the President of the United States. Now, I've only done that one once, but I did it. And I had a half an hour conversation with the President of the United States on my show. And another one, multiple ones with the Vice President of the United States. So, yeah, sorry about that.
By the way, looking down here, Lake Leon says he found you on Rumble and you got an extra follow.
Beautiful.
So
thank you.
So
I literally just started this too. I mean, I had to go to my Rumble page because, like I said, I've just had an account there just to dump videos on.
It's a placeholder. From
old interviews that I had done, on my Strictly Speaking show, and I would just dump them on there and let them sit. I didn't know how to promote them. I didn't cut them up into shorts and all those things that you've got to do to like really promote things. So I've never really cared about follower count or subscriber count or anything else. But now I care. Now I need to grow this thing because, like I said, I don't have the auto platform I have with corporate radio, but I've got this. And so, yeah, if you find it, Strictly Speaking Unfiltered with Bob Frantz on Rumble, and click subscribe, I would be extraordinarily grateful to everybody watching right now. And moreover, share that on your socials. And I'm telling you, you're going to like it. It's going to be a daily show. If you've never heard my radio show, I'm pretty proud of it, and I'm going to bring the same exact stuff I did on the radio show, which, by the way, was extraordinarily successful. I didn't get that Epstein treatment because we weren't doing our part. We were making very, very good headway for our company. This was a political backstabbing that I took, and I won't apologize for anything that we did, but I think you're going to enjoy it. So take a look for it. We're probably going to start it maybe by the end of the week. But yeah, that's it. There's my personal sales promotion.
Nice. Yeah, I told you off air, we were talking about John B. Wells. I had him back on in May. That's pinned at the top of our X feed. We're at American_media_. Make sure you're following us there. But one of his famous phrases that he's probably been a guest 10, 15, 20 times over the past 15 years. He says, Brian, there's an old saying in the military where if you're taking a lot of flack, you must be over the target. I'm like,
sure.
So if you're taking the shiv, if you're getting the accusation, well, now they consider you to be a threat, which means you must be onto something, and they're trying to tamp that down while they can. Well, they can't tamp down all of us, can they? It's like that scene in Ants. If they, with the grasshoppers and the ants, it's like there's millions of them. If they ever figured out all it would take for them to stand up as one, we'll be done for. Yeah, well, you know what? I was with you on all your movie references so far until that one. I didn't see Ants, so. Oh, I might have to pull that up at the risk of a copyright strike. But yeah, it's like the couple of grasshoppers that are ruling over their slaves, the ants. And they're, whether they're the banksters or the Illuminati, I don't know exactly what it's referencing, but just whoever's pulling the puppet strings on Earth. Right. And yeah, they have you idiots, if they ever realized that they could stand up as one, we'd be taken out in a heartbeat, something like that. But that's the
I think I've seen now that you say that, I think I've seen clips of that online. Somebody's probably some conservative commentator doing exactly making the reference you just made. Now, I didn't see the movie, but now that you're repeating that, I'm kind of seeing that clip on an X post someplace. Mm-hmm.
Because great ideas need to be shared. And sometimes, like Ben Franklin, he helped to create the United States of America, of course. And he created the first United States political cartoon. It was just United We Stand Divided. It was a chopped up snake into 13 parts. Your first political cartoon, your first meme. Sometimes you can just glance at an image and go, oh, I get it. You can read one phrase and go, oh, I get it. That's the memification of America today with social media, but it's the cartoonification from a few hundred years ago. But yeah, one quick thought, one quick point. Once you water, what is that, lighting brush fires in the minds of men? All it takes is an idea. All it takes is one little spark, flip the light switch on, and you can't undo it. It's the blue pill, the red pill. Once you figure out how messed up things are, you can't go back. Bob, what option do we have? If we shut up now and cower and go, well, if I don't say this, if I don't do, there's no hiding from this. It's not like it's a meteor that if we dig deep enough, we can ride this out. They're coming for all of us. Trump's biggest phrase was,
that's why I said,
they're not coming after me, they're coming after you. I just happen to be in the way.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said a few minutes ago. I talked about existentialism. We are not just talking about like, yeah, disagreement with the other side, or we're talking about existentialism. The existence of the country as we know it, as it was gifted to us, will not be there. It will not be there. The freedoms, the liberties, all of the opportunities that we have had, in a very few short years. And what I've always said, why do I do what I do? I mean, is it for a living? Is it for a paycheck? Of course. We all have to do what we have to do to make a living. But why do I do it with the passion that I do? And why don't I just go and do something else, now? Because one day I'm going to be lying in a grave, and I don't want to be freaking rolling around in it unsteady for eternity because I left my kids, because what was gifted to me was lost on my watch. While I was here, I let it all go to shit. While I was here, I let, the Marxists and the globalists erase our borders, erase our freedoms, erase our constitutional rights that were given to us not by Ben Franklin and not by Jefferson, not by Henry or any of the founders, but given to us by God, but written down by them. But if I don't give to my kids and give them the chance to give it to their kids the same way it did in the generations before us, next year we celebrate 250 years of this country. If it comes to an end in my time on earth, I will never rest. I don't think in all of eternity I will rest, and I don't think any of us will if if we're the ones who let it get away. And I'm sorry if this pisses people off there, if they're on the other side of the political aisle. But you are the ones that are siding with the Marxists. You are the ones that are siding with the globalists to erase everything that made the United States what I call consistently the greatest force for good in the history of human civilization. And there have been a lot of civilizations that have done good things, but ultimately the United States has been, as we know it, and it didn't start out that way. Obviously, we had our problems, and we had to eradicate slavery. We had to eradicate a lot of the problems in the social order. But that's the point. That's what the force for good is. We recognize bad, we wipe it out, we correct it, we fix it, we move forward, we provide equal opportunities for all to grow and to achieve. And that's why the rest of the world wants to flood our borders and want to come here, And my problem with that is, when they come in waving their own flags, like, we love the place that we just freaking left because we couldn't stand being there. We want to come to your place, but yeah, we still love this place. Let's make it more like that here. It's the stupidest ass thing ever. But I will not allow this country, like I said, which has done great things for other people, to fall to globalists who want to erase what like I said, the founding principles were in this country. And so that's why I do what I do, and that's why I'm going to fight every step of the way to And you know what, Brian, one more self-promotion as long as we're doing this stuff.
Do it.
We got to talk about Ohio State. We got to talk about Notre Dame. We got to talk about Shedeur.
No, we will.
But just one last plug on this thing. I started 41 weeks ago. I started a weekly newsletter called Strictly Speaking This Week. And it's something I'm pretty proud of. I put a lot of work into it. Every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I write it so that it shows up in your inbox Sunday morning at 6 a.m. And it includes an introduction. It includes 5 things to know this week, the 5 most important things that you need to know. And then it includes an audio video highlight of the week. And then it will include 5 things to do this week. So 5 things to know and 5 things to do are at the core. So 5 things that just to inform, educate yourself about these things, complete with sources and links. And then here's 5 activist things you can actually, action items you can participate in, this particular week. But I'm pretty proud of it. And like I said, I've only been doing it for about 41 weeks. I want to grow that subscriber base to that as well. And you can get that on my website. You can, sign up for it on my website at strictlyspeaking.org, strictlyspeaking.org. And the first thing you will see will be a pop-up, and it's on the right column. It'll say, sign up for the newsletter. It's free. You just got to put your name in and put your email address, and it'll show up Sunday mornings at 6 o'clock. So you can read it before church or read it after, or whatever. But that's just another thing. And it's all part of the same mission that I just described, to inform and to educate people, maybe have a little bit of fun from time to time as well. But so that we can fight off this attempt to exterminate what made this country great.
Yeah, I had my last conversation of several with cybersecurity legend and Libertarian presidential candidate John McAfee. In our last chat before he was whacked, he got a tattoo on his arm that said whacked. He said, if something happens to me in the Spanish prison, it wasn't me doing it to myself. I was whacked. And turns out that might have happened. But during our last conversation, I told him, I said, look, I don't know, because we were talking about the Vault 7 data dump that the CIA just got nuked. That was the topic of the show. That was one that got us quickly 130,000 views in about 30 minutes. And then they zapped the account. They zapped the video. Like, that was probably one of the key things. Where
that's being over the target. That's what that is.
You're over target. But I was talking with him about the urgency of everything. I said, I don't know how this shakes out. I don't know how this plays out. I said, but look, if there's a God and I have to meet that God at the end of this virtual reality experience, this, I don't know, hologram simulation, whatever you call this earthly experience, I don't know what it is, exactly what it is. But if there's a God and I got to talk to that God, I want to just be able to look at that entity and say, I tried. I just want to say I tried. Yep. And I've been trying like a madman, like I'm not leaving anything on the field.
It takes all of us too to do our role. I give speeches all over Northeast Ohio all the time to groups, conservative, like-minded groups. And I say, oh my God, Bob, thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do. And I'm thank you for the gratitude. I appreciate that. But guess what? You're doing it too. The fact that you're here right now and the fact that you knock doors at election time, the fact that you volunteer at the polls, the fact that you'll stuff envelopes, the fact that you'll share in your own way on your email threads, your text threads, or your social media feeds, we all have a role to play to say we tried, just to borrow your thing there, Brian, we tried. It's just some of them are more high profile than others because we have a platform. I've been doing radio for many, many years, long before the internet and social media and what you and I are doing right now came around. There's a lot more people that have this platform now, but some people have a bigger name and a bigger voice and a bigger opportunity. But everybody's role matters. I don't care if you've got 500 people watching you or if you've got 50,000 or if you got, like I said, if you're doing things behind the scenes and no one will ever see you for what you do, but you contributed to it. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at it this way. How many people at Turning Point USA can you name? Probably Charlie Kirk. Maybe Erica Kirk now, and before he was killed, maybe people didn't even know his wife's name. Did you know the name of any of the other people that were behind the scenes, that were producing the show and so forth? Very few people knew any of them, myself included. But guess what? That organization that was built by Charlie had just thousands and thousands and thousands of people who came to the polls to save America from sorry, again, if you're a Democrat watching right now, but sorry, saved us from Kamala Harris. And what a disaster that would have been for this country. Impossible to explain how bad that would have been in a million different ways. But they saved us from that. And we don't know any of their names except for Charlie Kirk's name. But they were all just as important. All of those thousands of voters were brought to things by the volunteers and the staffers that Turning Point hired. So some of them had, like I said, a real high profile, point of view, I guess, and can enjoyed some fame, if you want to call it that, a little bit with what they did, like Charlie. But it wasn't about that. It was about what's the mission, what's my role, whatever my role is, play it. And then, like you said, Brian, I can look at God when my time comes and said, I tried. I did what I could in my role to make things better for my fellow man and for America, which I think, big picture, a strong America, a free America is the best thing for the rest of the world. And these are all God's people. So
100% true. By the way, here's the quote that I was talking about here. I'm not going to play the clip because Disney can be as weird as WWE. There's a few entities that will slap you down with a copyright just for even though you're allowed to have like 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds of fair use content for original transformative commentary. They still slap you anyway. But Hopper from the movie Ants, he says, you let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that was that was what I was trying to convey there.
I'm glad you did. And like I said, I didn't see the movie, but I have seen that clip you're talking about. Somebody braved it and risked it to put it on their pages or whatever. But I'm glad you read that, man, because that's spot on.
Absolutely. Now, here's my question to you. Let's make our hard pivot. We're talking with Bob Frantz. Make sure you follow him. And your favorite spot, say it to everybody again. Rumble at what?
Rumble, Bob Frantz. I'm sorry, Strictly Speaking Unfiltered with Bob Frantz.
Perfect. Follow Bob at that site. Dealer's choice. Do you want to start with NCAA or do you want to start with Cleveland Browns, Shedeur in the NFL?
Well, you've got the playoff bracket up there. Let's do that.
I do. Well, now, do you want to start with the whining of Notre Dame or the upset of Ohio State? Where do we want to begin?
You know, my son was watching. He actually graduates from college this Saturday. But he was watching. He was on campus with his boys watching it, and we were texting back and forth as we watched that game. And we were just talking. I think we were just talking about Mendoza going down on that first play, and I thought the game was over. Their season is over. Their playoff run that they're about to enter is over because their Heisman candidate just had his shoulder separated, his throwing shoulder. As long as he laid down there and the grimace on his face, I thought he was done. I cannot believe he only missed a play and then came back. What a phenomenal statement and intestinal fortitude, or if you would rather, testicular fortitude from that kid, because he sacked up and he came back in and did some great things. You know, I think Ohio State is still the best team in the country. I think Ohio State is still better than Indiana man for man. But, you know, my point I was going to make is my son was like, when Fielding missed that kick, that 27-yarder, I hate kickers. I freaking hate kickers. I've always said that. Dude, I played football through college, and anybody who played football knows this. Every practice, you're doing something freaking grueling. You're either blocking or tackling or one-on-ones or, individual or then group and then team offense and defense, and you're banging and you're reading. You've got to read, defenses. You're putting in game plans, and the mental fatigue is so tired. Every lineman has got to know what the audible call is if the defensive tackle shifts down a man. If they're playing stunts or games or if they show blitz. It's a physical and mental grind, unlike anything else. That's what football practice is. While they're doing all of that for 2.5 hours a game, and that's not even counting then the film study to make sure they know what they're seeing on the field matched what they saw on screen. All of that crap. While football players are doing all of that, here's what kickers are doing. One step, plant, kick. That's it. That's their life all day long. It's hold her over here, take 2 steps back, 1 step, plant step, boom. That's all you do. That's all. You had one job. 1 step, plant step, kick. Now, unless it's a tsunami, or a hurricane and winds are 70 miles an hour, crosswinds or whatever, you have no reason to not be, especially from inside 30 freaking yards. You have no reason to be anything other than perfect, because that's all you do. While the real football players are playing football every day at practice, you're going 1 step, 2 step, kick. That's it. You should, and it shouldn't even be like, here's the goalpost and it sneaks inside the one up. It should be dead center perfect, especially from inside 30 yards. Don't ever try to convince me otherwise. Kickers, you guys are ass. Anybody who misses, and I'm sorry. Pressure is pressure, but you know what? Again, that's all you have to do. Anyway.
And we had plenty of opportunities in this game. I was impressed. Let me first start off by saying I was impressed that Indiana was as good as they were. Also, I don't think we played to our capability either. I think some of the play calls were horrendous, this, that, and the other. But I think their defensive line neutralized our running game fairly well all game long. I kept feeling like Bo Jackson was going to pop one. He has this dancing thing, and when he takes off, he shoots out like he's in a slingshot. And he just kept getting tripped up, like swinging an arm and just barely getting him off balance to go down. I'm like, he's going to take one to the house. He never did. But, if we play him 10 times in a row, I think we're going to have those opportunities. And turns out we might see them again. We'll see how it checks out. But
to the point that I was trying to make those is my son texted me. He said, dude, said,
back to that. Yeah, sorry.
He said, good teams like them need adversity. And now they're going to spaz. And I think he's right, meaning they're going to go nuts in the playoffs because they had not been tested all year long. The closest game they really had was Texas in the opener, and they pretty much dominated it. And then the rest of the schedule, I mean, it was just a weak schedule. I mean, that's not their fault. The Big Ten is what it is. You know, Michigan is in a down year big time. I mean, they didn't get tested, really. This is the first time they were tested, and they lost. And that's a good thing because I think he's right. Sometimes there's an old adage of sometimes you need to find out where your weaknesses are to really, really, make yourself the best version of yourself you are. And the best version of the Buckeyes is the best team in the country. And sorry to Indiana when I say that because they played an amazing game and they are very talented. So is Mendoza. And what Cignetti has done is just stupid. In 2 years, 23-2 and 2 playoff berths. I mean, that's just crazy what they have done. But Ohio State, I still think is the best team. And now that they faced some adversity and they actually it was proven to them that they can be beaten by somebody who's playing just right, I think they go nuts the rest of the way in the playoffs. I think he's right. My son is. And I'm still going to pick Ohio State to win the whole thing.
I agree with every part of that. That going for it on fourth down, doing the pseudo tush push, and it was called a first down. Then they checked and saw that his knee went, what was it, the 5-yard line inside the 10, something like that. I wish they would have ran up to the line of scrimmage and knocked the next play out quick enough. Maybe they were a little lackadaisical. They might have been able to squeeze it out. Who knows? But yeah, look, we missed out on 3 points there at least, if not a touchdown. We missed the kick. Okay, they missed a kick and it evened out. We didn't play a great game and we got beat barely. I think that there's a serious possibility that Indiana, first time Big Ten champion since 1967 or something like that.
That's right.
More power to them, but I feel like they've in a way shot their load a little too soon. They too much celebration over a Big Ten championship. You're not playing to win a Big Ten championship. You're playing to win a national championship.
No, but you know what you are. But you know what you are though. And first of all, I don't think. Based on everything I've seen from Cignetti, I don't think he lets that team be like, all right, that was our major. I think they are going to be just as focused. I think he's a phenomenal coach. I also think he's not long for Bloomington. Because when you do things like this quickly as he did, I mean, when a blue blood program comes for him with the $15-20 million contract or something, which is going to happen, I think he's probably not going to be there very long. But to the point about you want to win a national championship, Ryan Day, before the game, was even asked about why this game matters, because obviously you're all going to the playoffs. Both of you guys are going to the playoffs. Right. He said, our goal is to win the national championship. And being the number one seed has some very important advantages to winning the national championship. You get the best draw. You're supposed to anyway, and I think they did get it. Even though they are now number 2, I think they got a really favorable draw for the after their bye week. But I think that's why they were celebrating as much. Yay, we won the Big Ten championship, but they did more than that. They won the number 1 seed in the playoff tournament now, and they just beat the number one and undefeated Ohio State Buckeyes.
Defending national champion. Undefeated.
There you go, right. So they had a right to be like, feeling every bit of that after that game. And we got number 1. And now we also know there's really nobody we have to fear in these playoffs. It's not like we get to go into the playoffs as the number 2 seed, having lost to Ohio State. Talking about Indiana now, and been like, boy, I hope somebody else knocks them off before we have to try to play them again. There's nobody they fear now. They're probably not afraid of Georgia. They're not going to be afraid of, of really anybody. Ole Miss is going to be a really weird situation because they got, their substitute coaching staff in now. And so it's Indiana. I think Indiana's sitting in a really good place, and I think they had a right to be the way they were after that game. And like I said, they fear no one now. They've taken Ohio State. And even though it wasn't the Buckeyes at their best, it was Ohio State. And they played pretty amazing defense too, by the way, the Buckeyes did overall. I mean, Mendoza, it's not like he threw for 450. But they've seen the best in the country, and they know they can beat them now. So I'm fine with the way they handle that.
Yeah, and I think there were plenty of plays. You watch, what was that, 97 was getting tackled by 2 people. They didn't throw the flag on it. You can nitpick a lot of plays of importance that weren't called, but yeah, they rose to the occasion. That's fine. That's good for them. You're talking about Cignetti maybe not being long for Bloomington. There's this theory going on in Cleveland up to the let's not to fully pivot, because I do want to maybe just mention another moment over here on the playoff bracket for college football. But Stefanski's got to be out in Cleveland in theory, or he has Epstein-like footage on Jimmy Haslam. It makes no sense why that guy's been our coach for the past 3 years since they ran Baker out of town. But there's a thought, maybe you draft Mendoza at number 1, or you package your trades and you make sure you get number 1 and you take Mendoza and you bring Cignetti in to be his coach. There's a concern that maybe the style of quarterback play that you see out of Mendoza, it's only going to work with that coach. Do you think there's a chance the Browns watched that and went, holy shit? Because a couple things could have happened with Indiana, by the way. Yes, they got the number 1 seed, but if they lose, and maybe they lose convincingly, do you think they maybe drop out of the top 4 and they don't have a bye week? Maybe they would be playing week 1.
I don't think either one of those teams, if they would have lost, would have dropped out of the top 4. Neither one of them. They were both undefeated. Because then they just joined the group of 1-loss teams, like with Georgia and Ole Miss and so forth. All the teams with 1 loss, they were not going to drop out.
And then it would be who lost to the best team with 1 loss, and you go, well, you lost to the number 1 undefeated Buckeyes. Like, all right, that's barely a loss. You can't really.
Yeah, exactly. So they would definitely, I think, have kept number 2.
And then what about the theory of maybe go ahead and Browns get him and move the head coach in there? Just take the whole team from Bloomington up to the next level, whether it's the Browns or whoever wants them.
Yeah, based on what I've seen from Cignetti and what he's done with this program, which again, what were they? They were like 3-9, I think, the year before, and 3-9 the year before that. I mean, Indiana was bottom of the Big Ten, not even really middle of the Big Ten, but near the bottom of the Big Ten before he came and did this. And I think he's going to be a phenomenal coach, either at one of the blue blood universities or in the NFL. I do. I like everything. It's a very short, resume here, just, based on what he has done in these 2 years. So, it's a small sample size, but I think he's going to be a phenomenal coach. And that's exactly why the Browns would never sign him.
It would never happen because it would make too much sense.
He might be really good. And in Cleveland, they don't do things like that. They don't sign and keep good coaches. They get pieces of crap and they ride them until, they get Freddie Kitchens, for crying out loud. And I'm sorry, what Kevin Stefanski did on Sunday too, on both of those 2-point conversions. First of all, the decision, and we still want to talk about Notre Dame, but on the 2-point conversion, the fact that he went for 2 the first time instead of just making it a 7-point game, and then that ridiculous call where they took a hot-handed Shedeur off of the field. That if you were looking for a final nail to put in his coffin as head coach, I think we got it.
That's unless the goal is to develop your players, see what you got, try to get Miles his sack record, and make sure we keep losing so we can have a high draft pick because we got the cabinets to restock because of the Deshaun Watson fiasco. I don't know. Maybe that's a little far.
He's got to know how hot his seat is. He can't be like,
unless then given carte blanche. Buddy, look, we messed up. Jimmy Haslam messed up. We did the Deshaun Watson. It set us back half a decade, 5 years of picks, and we have no offensive lineman signed next year. Whatever you do, you're safe. It's almost like you get the feeling there's nothing that could get Kevin Stefanski out of Cleveland, and he knows it, and he's coaching.
But when you're in a position like his, though, it's not just the owner you're trying to please. He probably can't leave his house. You know what I mean? Because the fan base is so fed up with this dysfunction. And as much as it is Barry and it is Haslam for the decisions they made, particularly with Watson, Barry gave him a pretty good draft this year. Schlesinger is incredible. Fannin is a really good tight end.
Amazing draft. A plus. Right. First one I've ever seen in Cleveland.
Yeah, and that's with
Paul DePodesta lost his constraint over the team because DePodesta ran out of town. I think there's thoughts that he had way too much control of the draft. I don't know. But my God, Fanning's great. Judkins is great. Mason Graham looks great. Shedeur shows some signs, Yeah,
no, I agree. But point being, the face of it is still always going to be Stefanski, because you know what? When the game is on the line and the play call is coming in, it's not coming in from Barry and it's not coming in from Haslam. It's coming in from Stefanski. Or if he's letting Tommy Reese do it, whatever. The point is, he's going to be the face of it. I cannot imagine him saying, "Yeah, we'll just do this for 4 more weeks and lose a bunch more games and really set it up." Because I really love having my cart egged when I drive down, in downtown Cleveland. So
when we had Jarvis Landry and Hard Knocks was in there in Cleveland. In that locker room, not locker room, it was the film room session. He's like, "Oh, come on, man. That shit is contagious, bro. That shit is contagious. Just about the losing mentality and the excuse. That shit's contagious, bro."
He was right.
Yeah,
It absolutely is. No question about it. You've lost to a one-win Jets team now and a one-win Titans team. I mean, it's just there's no way they could be like it's okay because boy, we're going to solidify that number one pick. I mean, by the way, I'm not going to sit here and proclaim as much as I like what I've seen from that Mendoza kid that he's Tom Brady coming 2.0. I mean, we don't know if he's going to be the answer.
It's just a guess.
And by the way, as long as you're bringing it up, look at what Shedeur showed. Shedeur in week 3 as a starter indicated that maybe you don't need a quarterback if you get the number one pick. Maybe he's here. Maybe all of the drama and all of the Dion crap and all of the slid all the way to the 5th round stuff and sat behind Dylan Gabriel for, X number of weeks after they got rid of Flacco. Maybe all of that is over, and we come to find out if he's coached properly, he can be the answer, and then you don't even need a Mendoza. So I just can't believe that they would be, like Stefanski or anybody else would be like, oh, it's cool. Let's just continue to suck, and we'll get the number one pick, and all will be well then. No, it may not be. If you do decide it's not Shedeur and you want to take Mendoza, you better be damn sure. Because and I don't know that I am any more than Tennessee is damn sure that Cam Ward was the guy, because he is having one hell of a struggling rookie season.
And I mean, what did their draft capital that they gave up was the number one overall pick. We took Shedeur in the 5th. If you can get a comparable service or better, I mean, that's value at that position. Mason, yeah. I mean, it was, look at that. Look at the stats there. 364 yards for Shedeur Sanders. And a rushing
touchdowns is a Josh Allen number. Josh Allen usually runs for 2 and throws for 2, or throws for 3 and runs for 1. He had 4 touchdowns, for crying out loud. I mean, so yeah. I mean, and I don't know if he's going to be it or not. All I know is there's progress there at that position for the first time that they've seen that gets people excited for the first time since who? I don't even know. Baker, I guess. And Baker, when he beat the Steelers in the playoffs, was probably the last time there was this much excitement in the middle of, and that's a different scenario because they were winning. But in this case, where the season is lost, it was really lost before it even began, and they're looking for some reason to get happy. He made people happy on Sunday. So that's a start.
Yeah, the Flacco season was great. I remember I was at that game clinching the night game against the Jets. That was incredible. It went in laid an egg in Texas against the Texans there in the first round of the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, with Flacco, he's at the end of his career. It's not like
I didn't count that because that I'm talking about finding the quarterback, finding your franchise quarterback
for a decade or more to lock in the position and build around it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But Shedeur, I'm impressed. But it makes me wonder, why did we draft Dylan Gabriel 2 rounds ahead? And why was Dylan Gabriel given all the practice reps and given the opportunity to play all those starter games?
Well,
what did you see out of Dylan Gabriel that showed you he was a better prototype to potentially take over a franchise at quarterback in the NFL than Shedeur Sanders? The eye test alone after one game, after one series, shows you it's clearly Shedeur. There's no universe where Dylan Gabriel could be a better long-term answer, but Kevin Stefanski thought so. I mean, that kind of goes to who do we have running this team? What is the thought process there? It's almost unforgivable. I don't get what he's seeing.
I don't know that he necessarily thought that Gabriel was the better long-term answer. It's just that he was more prepared to step in there, maybe from a mental standpoint than Shedeur was. We traded Pickett, and then we started with Flacco, and then we traded Flacco, and Shedeur, from what they probably saw in practice, and we've seen some of it, just was not ready. And Gabriel was closer to being more competent as far as getting out there and running the offense. And maybe he can't make all the throws that you want him to make and so forth. But that Shedeur would have just been abysmal. I mean, that's the only thing that I can think of, because obviously it took the concussion of Gabriel for him to get on there. And he did look abysmal in a lot of ways. I mean, some terrible throws, some horrific footwork, some taking a lot of deep sacks, and all these kinds of things that have been the MO. But to me, I think it's almost impossible to evaluate either one of those rookie quarterbacks on this team with that line and with a very, very thin receiving core. I mean, Jerry Jeudy is not a WR1. Jerry Jeudy should be somebody's number 2 or number 3. So it's really, really hard, I think, to evaluate either one of those guys as being a failure and you can't play in this league, or you're the answer in the second coming with this team. I think if Patrick Mahomes was on this team, he's nowhere near the all-pro, because it's really, really hard to play quarterback for this football team. So what Shedeur did yesterday was probably, like I said, the first exciting thing that a young quarterback has done for this fan base since Baker, in the playoff win.
Yeah. By the way, if you look at Shedeur's 3 games, Baltimore, Vegas, San Fran, and Tennessee, his rating went from 13.5 to 87.3 to 93.6 to 97.7. He's starting to stack a little bit of experience. He's starting to stack some results. He's starting to show improvement. He's not scared to throw it downfield, and he has arm talent. I saw Dylan Gabriel terrified to throw it more than 5 yards downfield. Now, is that a direct result of Stefanski in his ear? Don't throw an interception. Don't throw an interception. Don't throw an interception, because that's been the complaint with Stefanski, is that he's turning this into a dink and dunk garbage team, and that's why he didn't.
That's kind of what I think it probably was. I mean, because it's not like he didn't throw 5 yards, at Oregon. I mean, he threw the ball down the football field.
I remembered seeing that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Now everybody knows the windows get a little bit smaller when you have NFL DBs, as opposed to, Pac-12 or Pac-18 or however the hell many, teams are left over there now. You get the point, though, or Big Ten now. What am I saying? Big 18. How many teams do we have in that freaking conference now?
I love the name Big Ten, but how dumb do we have to be to keep calling it the Big Ten when you got 12 teams?
I hate the whole concept, though. I don't want Oregon. I don't want the West Coast teams being in
Oregon. They don't belong in the Big Ten.
No, they don't. I mean, the Midwest should be the Midwest, and the West Coast should be the West Coast, and the Big 12 should be the Mid South or
maybe you have a Big Ten that's the Big Ten east of the Mississippi, Big Ten West, and that's what it is. You have 2 divisions of the Big Ten of each side, and the best play each other. Okay, fine. It's really hodgepodge how they've been doing it over the years.
No, it's crap, and that's another story for another time. But my point being was that I saw Dylan Gabriel, throwing for Oregon in places that I could see why they drafted him. I can see 3rd round, not first, 2nd round. No, not a chance. 3rd, 4th round. Okay. And they clearly thought he was better than Sanders at draft time, because a lot of the drama surrounding Shedeur and everything, of course, that was heaped upon him, all of the accolades and everything else, retiring his number at Colorado for going 13-12 and losing a bowl game to, I don't know who the hell it was, Cleveland State. It was just so much, and all of his own personal drama with his legend and everything else. I don't have any problem with saying I don't want to be a part of that circus. But then there came a point, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th rounds are not going to be. Now we're looking at best possible player on the field. We already have a rookie quarterback we're bringing. Do we want to bring in another one and be part of the circus? I can see why they were reticent to put him on the football field. I do. But now you have to say, okay, my eye tests have seen progress, development, still a lot of the things that we didn't like about him, which is why he wasn't practicing with the first team and practice all the time anyway. But we've seen a breakout performance now that we haven't seen in a long time. Now we can build around that, and that's and I think that's a fair thing.
Right. We're talking with Bob Frantz. Check out his Rumble channel here. Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. There it is. There's you. Look at the Bob Frantz. What's your number one show that you want? This is what you have featured. Big changes.
Well, that was the one that's the one that just announced, what happened to my show. Like I spent the first 10 minutes of your show talking about is what happened to my radio show and what I'm doing next, which is coming here. And all of those things that you see there, like I said, are just interviews that I've done. I just dumped on there over the course of the last 12, 13 months or something like that. Never did anything with them. The live show that's going to be on that channel is going to start here very, very soon. And that's what I want people to know.
Nice. Back to college football. We wanted to definitely talk about Notre Dame. They're taking their ball and they're going home. Oh, you don't pick me, then I quit. Harumph. Notre Dame, the team that has been given such preferential treatment with their fancy schmancy NBC deal. Oh, we're going to be on NBC every week, regardless of what bums we're playing. The most overhyped team in college football history. Now they're having a hissy fit because they didn't crack the top 12. And they say, we don't want to be a part of your playoffs. Bob, what say you? What's going on over there in South Bend, Indiana?
I'm not a Notre Dame hater. So I'm not going to call them the most overrated, blah, blah, all the stuff that you just did. But I do hate the reaction of the fans with things like this. It just, the problem wasn't Notre Dame. And I also like Marcus Freeman, by the way. I do. I think he's a good guy. I think
former
he's a
Buckeye, right? He was a...
Well, yeah, exactly. And then he was coaching in Cincinnati, defense coordinator at Cincinnati before he went to Notre Dame. I like him a lot. He recruited my son, as a matter of fact. He didn't offer him, but he recruited him when my son was coming out.
Where did your son play again? Where's he graduating from?
Well, he went to Ball State, and then he transferred. He did the portal dance and went to Toledo, and then left Toledo and decided to go down to D2 because he wasn't going to start in Toledo. Oh. So he went and played at Edinburgh University. Had a really nice 2-year career there and made all conference and enjoyed himself. So
nice.
Anyway, where was I going with that? I like Marcus Freeman, and I understand how furious they are. The problem isn't Notre Dame here, and it's certainly not Miami's fault either. Kirk Herbstreit said this yesterday somewhere, and he's right. The problem is having the stupid Tuesday night selection shows, the college football playoff updated rankings, because none of them mean squat. If Miami had been ranked ahead of Notre Dame last week at the penultimate, the second to last one, and they kept it here, nobody can cry because neither one of them had one more game. Now, by the way, Miami should have. That stupid tiebreaker, the fifth tiebreaker that the ACC used to decide who gets to play in the conference championship game, which led to the stupid upset, of Virginia. That's what caused this when Duke upset Virginia, which caused this thing. But Miami didn't get to play in their conference championship game. They should have. But since neither they nor Notre Dame played, and then the committee did the flip and said, okay, Miami's now better than Notre Dame. That's what led to all of this. Why do that show every Tuesday? Just keep the CFP top 25 and let the committee do their jobs behind the scenes. When March Madness happens, they don't have a new, here's who the top 64 teams are now, or 68 teams are now, as of, a month and a half before the tournament. And here's where they are week to week to week to week. They don't do that. They just, the analysts look at the strength of schedule. They look at the power rankings, look at all of the different metrics, and they kind of get an idea, boy, what's the committee going to do with this? And then they pop out and, let's let the debating begin. That's what had to happen here. If they just stop putting out those stupid, here's the current one, and we'll see how it changes next week. And then they wouldn't have to, if they stopped doing that, then they wouldn't have to say, when did that loss happen and how much does it mean? Is that a loss? Because before we considered the Notre Dame loss to Miami, this way, this is how we considered in the middle of the rankings. But at the end of the year, now it carries a little more weight because their resumes side by side are a little bit, are very, very close. So now we're going to use the head-to-head and we're going to leapfrog one over the other. Well, why didn't that head-to-head matter the week before or the week before that? So Notre Dame fans have a right to be pissed off that they flipped it without either team playing another game. And that fault lies with college football. And I don't know who to say, who the CFP committee that actually, has their stupid, what are they doing, about 5 weeks out, 6 weeks out, however many different variations of the playoff teams that they have. They're going to stop that. Just let everybody wonder. Let the top 25 be a guide, but not the only thing, considering how they do it with the, Power Four conferences and the group of five, how many they're going to take, and the whole 9 yards about how the at-large teams are picked. Let people wonder, and then let the debating begin and the fights happen. But then you won't be able to say they screwed our team because they leapfrogged somebody that they felt like was not as, that Notre Dame was better than, and they leapfrogged them without ever playing another game, with either team playing another game. So I think Kirk Herbstreit is right. Just get rid of the 4 or 5 different variations of the rankings or the playoff rankings before they start.
The final boss 80 here says, huge Irish fan here, coming in to congratulate all the teams that made the playoffs.
Nice.
I said apologies if I came in too hot against your Fighting Irish. My bad about that. I'll walk that back a little bit. Thanks for being here.
You don't have to, though. I mean, because you know what? A lot of people just, there are some teams that just draw. Notre Dame is kind of like Cowboys, Yankees, the team that America loves to hate, because you're just nobody is neutral on those teams. You either hate the Cowboys or you ride and die, with that star. Same thing with the Yankees, and Notre Dame's that because of what you just said too at the beginning. They love their TV contract. They don't need to join a conference. We get to be on every single week, and we don't have to share our money, the money of that contract, with anybody else. And so for that reason, most people hate Notre Dame. And if you got hate for Notre Dame, let it fly. They're big boys and girls. They can take it. I'm one of the rare where I'm not neutral. Maybe I am a little bit. I was rooting for them last year, big time. 2 years ago. Whenever Notre Dame is against somebody like Alabama or somebody else that I hate, I'm like, go Irish, let's go. Otherwise, I'm just like, whatever happens, happens. But most people have either just a seething hatred for them or, they're just Irish through and through. And so I'm cool with that.
Fun fact, you're talking about rooting for Notre Dame. I watched the national championship game last year outside of the DC Gulag. I was in Washington for the inauguration. Actually, I think going through my text, maybe I sent you a message asking, are you going to be there? I
think you did. Yeah, you did.
About that, but I was interviewing Ashley Babbitt's mother. We were interviewing Jake Long and all the people that were released out of the DC Gulag there at inauguration. And from the facility, the corrections facility, we walked freezing in January out there, mid-January. We walked 2 blocks up the hill, and there was an Irish pub right there. I was one of 2 people rooting for the Buckeyes. The whole play, they had to play like a champion today, signs on there. Everybody was rooting for the Irish, and it was me and some other dude at the bar rooting for the Buckeyes. I'll never forget that. Definitely didn't root for Notre Dame that day. That was a great day.
There's one other thing we should probably talk about that CFP that we haven't brought up is the Alabama thing. What'd you think of them getting gold in their conference championship game, their 3rd loss, but they're still in?
I get talk about overrated teams and living off the legacy of ghosts of football yesteryear. That's Alabama. We're past the Saban years. 3 losses, give me a break. Marion here says, seems to me the college football playoffs have been an issue for some time. Not sure how it all fits together. Are you okay with 12 teams? Does it feel right that we finally found the right – because there's always a BYU or a Boise State or some undefeated school from some whack, literal or figuratively whack conference, claiming, we have the right to be in there. I don't know. Does the legacy program of Alabama deserve it more than, a James Madison or some funky
20 years ago, I said that it should be 16. And I stand by that. I do. I stand by that. That way you get all of the major conference champions in, and then you have the at-large teams. And I have no problem with that. It just makes sense. It's like a Sweet 16. That's what you play to get down to in basketball. And you just start, we got our Sweet 16. That way I think, and will there still be a fight between 16 and 17? Of course. You're always going to have that no matter what. You're never going to eliminate that. But this way you can get the conference champions in. And I will say every one of the major conferences should be represented, but I don't think it always has to be the conference champion. I don't necessarily like all of the conference championship games. We didn't used to have those, by the way. It used to be, a long time ago. So, a 5-loss Duke team wins the conference championship because they got hot and they caught Virginia on a down day. I don't think that means that your body of work from week 1 till now makes you one of the top 16 teams in the country, or in this case, 12, which of course they weren't, which is why they didn't get picked. The committee got that part right. Miami was the best team in that conference this year, particularly after what happened to Virginia. And so therefore they ought to be. I think everybody should be represented, and 99 times out of 100, it's going to be the conference champion. But in the rare occasion where some 5-loss team upsets, the best team in a conference championship game, I don't think you automatically have to punish that team that would, that lost that day, or you don't take the best team from that conference top to bottom, from week 1 to week 12 or 13. But I think there's room for the Boise State stories. I think because how many times we saw. Do we have to talk about Mouse McFadden beating Bobby Knight? Right? I mean, when Cleveland State did it, and that changed the complexion of the tournament for everybody else after that. So those games have to be played. Mm-hmm. You're going to have, remember when Boise State, was it Oklahoma with the Statue of Liberty? Was it Oklahoma?
That was, I think, triple overtime maybe? That was so good.
Yeah, but point being that sometimes those teams, they're probably not going to win the national championship, but they're going to play a damn big role in who does. Sure. And you should have to beat those teams before you can get to the, blue blood clash between Ohio State and Georgia or whatever it's going to end up being. I'm fine with those teams being in, but I think it should be 16, and that way you don't sacrifice a deserving team that should be there. And Notre Dame would of course in a 16 team field be in this whole thing, and everybody wouldn't have anything to bitch about.
Yeah. Marion here saying about Notre Dame. Yeah, it's kind of like you either love cilantro or you hate cilantro. Does it taste like a nice little seasoning, or does it taste like soap? I guess we have different taste buds that pick up on cilantro. Maybe cilantro is a lot like Notre Dame. They share that green color.
That's a pretty good analogy, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty solid. We have some good regulars over here. I do appreciate them. Yeah, by the way, speaking of regulars, hit like, hit subscribe, however you're following us. Thank you for being here. Quick note, if you want one of our awesome The New American Media mugs, they're black and white and red all over, just like the old school newspapers. They're $40 on Venmo. Scrolling at the bottom of the screen, actually, let me switch off from your stuff. Make sure you follow Bob Frantz at all of the places. Let's put our donation link up here. Yep, Venmo. It's just my name, Brian Engelman. Shoot $40 over. Continental United States, I'll ship you out an awesome The New American Media mug. If you want any of these are Ohio-made thick wooden coasters. The Unhappy Hour Sports Show, either shaped like the state of Ohio or circular, $30 a piece or $50 for both. And then, of course, there's the pin. You can see the pin, sort of. It's the Unhappy Hour pin. Those are $25. Shoot me a Venmo with your address, and I'll send those out for Christmas. Yes, we're allowed to say Christmas again. What a difference a year makes, I suppose. So, Bob, anything else we wanted to cover in the NCAA with the tournament, with the brackets, with the seedings, with all of that? We wanted to touch on Notre Dame taking their ball and going home. They're not going to even play in a bowl game now. Do you think that's a little too much? Do you think they have the right to be that salty?
This is what the opponents of playoffs worried was going to happen for years when we kept saying, we want playoffs, because, we're tired of the polls just deciding it. And then the old BCS, we just pick two teams to go and play in the champ. We wanted to see playoffs, and they said because it'll kill the bowl system. They were right. But you know what? I'm okay with killing the bowl system. Most of those games were for nothing but money anyway. And how many players, when they didn't have a chance to win the championship over the course of the last 10 years especially, have said, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm getting ready for the draft. I'm not going to blow up my Achilles or my ACL in a meaningless game where we're not advancing to the next round of the playoffs or something. It's just a show game for money, for sponsors to put, I don't know who the hell sponsors the Rose Bowl. I should know, but whatever. You understand the point, So
Rose Bowl presented by Prudential.
Thank you. So so many of those guys were not playing anyway. So I'm is it poor sportsmanship for them to say we didn't get to make the playoffs, so screw you, we're taking all the gold? Yeah, I suppose. But again, since the bowl system has kind of become nothing more than pageantry and sponsorships now, I don't blame them. If those guys don't want to go out there and risk injury to win a game, to be what? I mean, what's the best they can be ranked? After the top 12 teams are in the playoffs, the best they can do is, hey, we won the bowl game to be number 13 in the country. Maybe. It depends on how the other bowl games that didn't have playoff implications came out too. What are you playing for? So I don't know. Maybe I'm not being a real traditionalist here, but I'm just accepting it what it is. Nobody cares about the bowl games anymore. And so if nobody cares, except for the sponsors and their money, then I guess I can't scream too much at Marcus Freeman and his guys say, I don't want to do it either.
That's fair. In the spirit of our Strictly Football show, that'll be tomorrow, I believe at 3 p.m. Eastern, might be 4 p.m. Stay tuned. I think it will be. Every time we talk about the playoffs, we got to play this little clip from Jim Mora.
I don't know. All I know is we threw 4 interceptions and fumbled once. 1 interception they returned for a touchdown. 3 others were in our end of the field where they scored point. That's all I know.
Playoffs.
That's inexcusable.
It is.
Inexcusable.
It is.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
I
just hope we can win a game.
One of the classic moments of all time, Bob.
When you hear him talking about interceptions, and when he says fumble, don't you think he's about to say something else?
Fumble.
I swear to God, that's what it sounds like is coming out of his mouth. He's about to say effing, interception. He said fumbles. Every time I hear that, I think he's about to drop the F-bomb, even though I've heard it for 25 years.
No, it's one of the best clips of all time. All right, so I think we've exhausted anything NCAA related. Any odds and ends for you on that front?
I'm good.
We talked about the Browns and Shedeur Sanders. We like what we've seen. Is he the guy? We don't know. Stefanski, we're not fans. What else about the Browns needs to be said that we didn't air our grievances? We're coming up on Festivus, right? So what other grievances need to be aired here about the Browns? What if Bob Frantz is the general man, the owner? Do you think Andrew Berry did enough to keep his job with this incredible draft? It's an incredible draft. I'm calling it. I'm so impressed. The Bowling Green guy where I went to school, Harold Fannin, just so good. The team finally had a good draft. What's left unsaid about the Browns that needs to be said? Because it is pathetic.
If I'm Haslam and I'm looking to make changes, and there do need to be changes, because again, you're 3-10 now. Is it 10?
11?
11?
I think.
Left even. And again, you lost to a 1-8 team a few weeks ago. Now you lose to a 1-11 team.
3-10. Yeah, we're 3-10. Sorry.
3-10. There you go. Changes need to be made, but I think whereas I would have said a year ago, because he engineered the Deshaun worst trade of all time, or worst trade since the Herschel Walker deal, or whatever you want to compare it to. I would have said Barry's got to go, but I think he may have saved himself with this draft, and it's going to be Stefanski that's going to have to take the fall. And I shouldn't say that as if it's unfair. It's well deserved, quite frankly. It's weird to see that a guy in 5 years had 2 Coach of the Year awards, but is going to get fired. But it's inexcusable. His refuse. I think he's mismanaged to the level that I've watched it, and I've got to be 100% honest here. You and I talked about this before we started on, going live. I have, because of my political beliefs and my genuine anger and frustration at the woke crap that the leagues embrace it now. When Major League Baseball didn't put MLB on the mound a few years ago, they put BLM on the mound. That was a game changer for me. I didn't like that when they took the All-Star game away from
Charlotte,
Atlanta, because they passed a law down there saying that we're going to have voter ID now, and somehow, some way, that was racist. They took the game away from a African American majority city and county, and gave it to lily white Denver, Colorado instead, because this was supposedly harming minorities in Atlanta. And they gave $100 million in freaking economic development funds that would have gone, generally go to the city that hosts an all-star game. They took it from a city that could really have used it and gave it to a lily white city. It was really hilarious. Point being, when all of these leagues got super political and all of it was woke, I just said, done.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the NBA consistently in 5 years. It really since the summer of love in 2020. And
that's a shame, because the Cavs have a good obviously they're kind of struggling this year a little bit, but it's a nice core group of players with no affiliation to LeBron James, which is supposed to be a nice breath of fresh air. Maybe we could win our first championship without LeBron.
Well, in truth,
taste in a lot of people's mouths.
No, you're right. And in truth, the other part of it with the NBA for me, it's not just the woke stuff, because I can put things aside. Like I've lived in night football my entire life. I played football. It's been my favorite sport. My son has played football from grade 4. I didn't miss a week, a game of his since age 4 to age 22 that just ended there. Football. So it's been my guilty, my one indulgence in my kind of generalized boycott of woke sports, woke pro sports, is to watch football. for the game, not for the league that's woke, but because I love the game, the competition. I just love football. So I watch that a lot more. But the NBA, going back to it, it's the quality of the game that I just pointed out is such crap now. That's the other reason it's been easier for me to turn my head from that. Not just the woke stuff, but the fact that in an average night, an average NBA night, when you go looking at the box list, somebody scored 135 or more. And you've got 9 guys averaging 33 points or more a game. It's a completely defense-free league. The three-point line has become a foul shot for so many guys. Mm-hmm. It's just a scoring festival. It's just crap. It's a crappy product. It's bastardizing all of the records from all of the other eras before. I mean, I remember in the late 90s, like after the Bulls run and the early 2000s, the highest scoring teams in the league were about 101, 102, 103 points a league. Now, like last year, the year before, I looked it up and I looked at the team average scoring, and the lowest scoring team in the league was averaging like 115 points a game. And the highest were averaging, like I said, 125, 127, whatever. But I saw a game earlier this year. It wasn't even an overtime game. It was like 148 to 141. That used to be the All-Star game.
The All-Star game, right.
Yeah. And now it's just a night in the NBA. So it's a crappy product. In addition to, I hate LeBron James, and in addition to, the woke crap.
And you and I have discussed that at great length as well.
Yeah, I know. It's just not a good product right now, man. I took my family to a game last year around Christmas time to the Cavs, and they were entertaining. Donovan Mitchell's fun, and he's a great attitude guy too. He's just a very likable guy. There are some really good guys, but overall, by and large, the game is a really, really bad product right now, and I think the ratings reflect that too. If you look at it. When you have this much scoring and no defense, and it's just a track meet, and really it's a 1-ball, 2-ball, somebody stepping back for a 3. Nobody takes mid-range shots anymore. There's no beauty and artistry, of passing the ball the way there used to be. And I'm not going back to the 60s. I'm talking about the Spurs, 15 years ago. There used to be an art to the game, and now it's just who can launch. What's the average number of threes taken a game? It's just crap, man. It's a crappy product for me. So anyway, I forgot how I got into the NBA. Oh, just talking about the NFL.
Well, you said
woke sports turned me off, or the wokeness of the sports leagues turned me off to it, but also some of it is just the product is garbage.
You said that you do allow yourself a little bit of football because of the game. And of course, since I played Jim Mora, I got to work in Allen Iverson because we're not talking about a game. We're talking about practice.
Listen, we're talking about practice. Not a game.
We gave them the friggin' game. In my opinion, that sucked.
Not a game.
We threw that game.
We talking about practice.
Don't talk about playoffs.
Practice?
Playoffs?
We're talking about practice, man.
Playoffs?
We're talking about practice.
Playoffs?
We're talking about practice. We ain't talking about the game.
I just hope we can win a game.
We're talking about practice.
Did you edit that? Is that your edit?
Not my edit, but it's one of the most glorious edits in the history of edits.
Yeah, that's really good stuff.
No,
I can't wait, by the way. I can't wait to watch that AI. There's an AI special on Netflix, I think. It's like a documentary. It's like one of those good deep dive 2 hour. His story is a pretty crazy one. I watched him at Georgetown, dude. When he was at Georgetown, he was unlike anything I had seen, honestly, for being a 6-foot point guard. I mean, and that's because I wasn't old enough to really appreciate Pete Maravich at LSU, averaging 44 points a game without a 3-point line. A 44-point-a-game scorer without a 3-point line. Think about that, how amazing he was. I didn't get a chance to see him. Watching Allen Iverson at Georgetown and then what he became was really a remarkable thing. And I'm kind of interested to watch that documentary.
Yeah, the glory days of those 90s, the AI and the Jordan and the Mark Price bread. God, I feel like those Cavs could have won a title if it weren't for Jordan there, but it was a different era. It was a different game. I don't know. I'm just such a fan of football. I'm such a fan of basketball. I just love sports. I love competition. It's been a cornerstone of what helped build me. Some people need the military. Some people need real stern parenting at home. I got it from sports. You know, I
Same here. Same here.
It really it drove a wedge in between what the point of sports is. It's egalitarian. It's not supposed to be pressing down like DEI. Well, the Minnesota Timberwolves haven't won a championship, so let's make sure the referees call this game a little differently to balance it. It's just, no, whoever does the best gets the championship. That's supposed to be what sports is about. That's supposed to be what America's about. Supposed 100%. To. But we've had
the only other thing I'll say as we close it, man, is I love college sports, particularly college football, especially when I turned away from woke NFL. But what college has done to kill itself is also really, really, really frustrating to me. And of course, I'm talking about the fact that, there's 18 teams in the Big Ten and all of this realignment. And mostly, obviously, it's, NIL. NIL has made every 18-year-old 4- or 5-star prospect a free agent. And, they're picking a school like when I just saw who did Ohio State just said that Chris Henry. Yeah. I was like, they showed it on, I think it was on Fox 8 or somewhere on the sportscast, and they showed his call to Ryan Day saying he's coming. And I remember when those recruiting battles were won by one school over another for the best player in the country or a 5-star blue chip guy at this position, or particularly if it was a quarterback, it was like, yes, he chose us. He trusts us to make him the best that he can be, to win a championship, to become an NFL player now. It was like, I out-recruited that guy. Bo out-recruited Woody, or Woody out-recruited Hayden Fry, or whatever. And that was something. And now it's just like, how much did they offer you? Okay, we'll give you another $500 on top of that. They offered you $2 million. We'll give you $2.5 in NIL money. Mm-hmm. We'll make sure you get it. And it's like, when Chris Henry called Brian Day, it's like, hey man, when's the first check come? There wasn't that like I chose Ohio State. Now, I don't want to say that.
He did have to kind of re-choose him because Hartline is going to, where's he, UCF?
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, so that was kind of it. He goes, well, I had to reevaluate after, that's.
And plus, Ohio State has become wide receiver U. With the book, with all. I mean, if you want to be a first-round NFL draft pick and become a superstar, an All-American, and everything else as a wide receiver.
Olave, Harrison, Jackson Smith, and Jig. It just got list. Yeah. That's with Jeremiah Smith not even in the mix. Carnell Tate not even in the mix.
Right. So I get that. I mean, that part of it is, he's making a decision there. But still, if somebody else was going to give him more money at NIL, he would have picked another school. And I don't have the numbers. We don't have the numbers, but you understand that these kids are now making business decisions, not which school is going to be best for me to break out and become what I want to be, which is a pro player, and which coach do I like the best, which quarterback, which system do I think fits me the best. It's like I said, they all have agents now, and they're just all free agents. Mm-hmm. And I hate it. I hate it.
But you said your son bounced. He tried 3 different schools. Did the process, was it different because of NIL?
It didn't. It started after his freshman year and after he left Ball State. He had about a dozen D1 offers, and he chose to go to Ball State. He was good, and there's some weird things happened there, including a concussion, a non-football related concussion that caused all kind of problems for him. I don't want to get into the personal side of it, but he had to make a choice, and he said, I need a fresh start. So he went to Toledo, another MAC school, and that is when NIL started. But it actually started after he had signed on to go to Toledo. So it was his second year at Toledo when the funds started rolling in, and that was when he decided he didn't want to stay. Like I said, because I asked him, be 100% honest with me, be self-aware here. You got 20 wide receivers in that wide receiver room. Where are you? How do you evaluate yourself? And he said, honestly, probably about 8th. And I said, okay. And even in a best case scenario, how many are playing? And the answer is 5. When you go 5 wide and and you're 8th, you're probably going to watch the next 2 years. And he figured, I want to go, I want to play, and I want to play. And so he was willing to swallow some pride and go play D2 football, and had a great experience there. But so he didn't get to partake in NIL. And maybe I would have a different opinion if he was coming out now and he had 12 Division I offers and opportunities to make some money. I might have counseled him to say, bud, if you like this coach a little more than that coach, but the one you don't like as much is offering you a little bit more money, you can learn to like him, take the money. Maybe I'd be that way. I'm trying to be 100% honest. I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here. that might have been what I told him to do, but he missed out on all of that because of the way things played out and the timing of it all. So I guess I can only look at it from the vantage point of an analyst or a fan rather than a dad involved in the process.
Right. Yeah, I had offers D1A, D2, D3. It was cool that Mount Union thought enough about me. Like, they were hammering my dad to get over there, and it's like they were winning the national championships for Mount Union size, which is someone my size could have played at a school like that. But yeah, it is a new landscape out there, and we are trying to navigate it. I'm happy it's not just 2 teams in the college football championship. Is it 16, 12? What's it exactly? I don't know, but I am glad that it's not just 2. 2 sucked. I hated 2. You have one hiccup and you're done. I hated that.
Yep, same here.
Hopefully, we're going to, like you said, maybe configure it a little bit. Some of the other theories maybe reseed it every round. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is, but
I don't even think you need to do that. Really. Yeah, just get the top 16 teams, get your conference championships or representation from each of the conferences with the best team based on strength of schedule and rankings and whatever. Do that, but like I said, just make sure that we don't have new rankings coming out every week for 6 weeks before, because all that does is cause problems. Well, how did you go from here to here? You know what? If nobody knows where they are until it's actually time to draw, then nobody can be all butthurt and say, we got screwed. We know what the fans are saying right now. So.
No, that's a very good point. Bob, last question before we let you go. We talked about Heartline. We talked about Wide Receiver University. What impact do you think it's actually going to have at Wide Receiver University losing Heartline? Because he was kind of like locked in as well. When he was there, look at what was cranking out. But then you watched him as offensive coordinator against Indiana, and you went, "Oh God, that was terrible effort." What do you see happening as they reload? Obviously, putting Patricia in at defense has been fantastic for him. But what do you see happening on the Heartline Wide Receiver University recruiting front?
I don't think that a physical specimen like Jeremiah Smith necessarily needed Brian Heartline to be the best player in college football, which he probably is. Position notwithstanding, usually it's the quarterbacks are going to go get the Heisman and stuff. But I don't think he needed Heartline. But for them to, and maybe neither did Marv, but with the consistent All-American receiver year after year after year, he was doing something. Oh, he had an impact that maybe took a guy who's a 5-star player and made him play 5 stars, whereas maybe without him, and I don't know if it's technique, route running, or whatever tricks of the trade it is that he did in coaching these receivers, or putting them in positions, to be so successful. Whatever it was, maybe he took a guy and got every bit of his 5-star out of him, whereas maybe with a lesser, receivers coach or a coordinator or whatever, and maybe these guys play to a 4.5 level or a 4. They're still going to be great. I think this Henry kid is going to be great without Brian Heartline, but did Heartline do something to make these guys so consistently better? Each year that you lose an All-American receiver, no problem. We've got another one coming right up. It'll have an impact. Probably not a huge one. It's not going to be the difference between winning the Big Ten or not, but you're going to have a level of play that I think a lot of superstar players were reaching, maybe because of the coaching. I can tell you this. My son's favorite coach was in his 3 schools was Kevin Beard. Kevin Beard, who played at the U back in the late 80s, I think I want to say. He was the receiver coach at Toledo when he was there for 2 years. He said he learned more at practices from Kevin Beard than he thought he knew pretty much everything about route running and about body position and about eyes and about hand fighting and about releases, because, most coaches are teaching that stuff. But he said, oh my God, he learned so much more from Kevin Beard than he ever could have imagined, and it makes it so much more difficult to cover. And I mean, just things that you don't think about. Things I played like you. I played D3, same conference, by the way. I played at Heidelberg, and I never got coached on this stuff. But he was talking about like running a post, and most of us. What'd you play? What position?
Well, by the way, to clarify, Mount Union wanted me. I ended up going to Bowling Green, and during Urban Meyer's first year, I decided to do radio, student government, all sorts of partying instead of joining the team as a walkout.
I misunderstood. My bad.
But I played defensive end on 2 undefeated teams at Brunswick Blue Devils.
Oh, okay.
Played Ignatius in the state championship. We were winning at halftime. We lost my junior. Yeah, we were 24-2 out of 20. So 2 undefeated seasons and 1 championship of D1. championship appearance. So it was a good run. It was a really good
Yeah,
run.
it was a hell of a run. Now you're doing Glory Day stuff here. I'm going to have to say that I was on two back-to-back state championship teams at Elyria Catholic, 1983 and 1984.
Yeah.
Nobody in Lorain County had ever done until this year. Avon just won their second straight Division II state championship.
Hey, what position were you again? You were
I was a tight end.
tight end. No, that's
Which is why I was going to the same with the receivers. So, I mean, but he talked about how, it's very, very, very common as soon as you make your break to start flipping your head out and looking around for that football. And it's just because it's what you do. Where is it? Where am I going? Is it going to be too high? Is it going to be too... And it was KB who taught my son. He said, well, as soon as you do that, you're telling the DB that it's coming and to do the same thing. And now it's a jump ball, or he said, you keep running, you know where you're supposed to catch it. You don't flip that head around until it's actually going to be about 5 yards from you. The element of surprise is you keep running that post and you don't look, so that he just keeps looking at you. And now when you know where you're supposed to be and you practice it well enough, now I turn and there it is. It's just little shit, little stuff like that great wide receiver coaches can teach. And he laid a plethora of them on me, all the stuff that he learned. And by the way, KB is now the receivers coach at the U. He left Toledo and went to the U 2 years ago, so he's back at so he's in the playoffs now. And I loved him too when I talked to him. Just a great guy. But anyway, that's about Brian Hartline. Yeah, there's probably some things there that he was doing with guys that maybe other receiver coaches don't do or can't do. If my son's experience is any evidence of that, that may be the answer to your question.
Any given Sunday from 1999, the coach says you find out this game is a life of inches. So is football, because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch, because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the fucking difference between winning and losing. And you're talking about like the little things, I just watched a clip. I forget which team it was and I forget what scenario, but it was a wide receiver and it was him running the route and continuing the route and then putting his head back and then putting his arm up and continuing, which took the defender away from the play that was going right behind him for the touchdown. Because they were cycling him out on the little... I'm going up for it in the end zone. He's actually going up like you're faking a fair catch on special teams. It's the little tiny pieces that add up to the yards that win the game. I love that stuff. I love those little coaching things.
I had a hard time with Any Given Sunday because it was just hard for me to see Tony Montana coaching football. It just didn't,
Tony Montana.
Tony Montana and Sonny Corleone, telling me how to play football now. It didn't work. But anyway.
Well, Bob, thank you for being here, talking all of the things that we do. It's life, politics, it's sports, it's all the things. I don't know how to unscramble the eggs of me. I don't know how you can. We try, we don't try. I don't know. We're just humans at the end of the day having conversations about all this stuff. Thanks for joining me, discussing all the things in sports. We didn't talk about any Guardians, maybe just touching on the Cavs, but there's plenty of time down the road to do some of that. Bob, this is your channel here, Strictly Speaking, unfiltered on Rumble. You want everybody to go over there, hit subscribe, and you're going to start knocking out some content over here as soon as possible.
Very, very soon, we're going to start a live daily show that'll run 10 a.m. until noon, and I hope everybody is ready, because we're ready to go.
Heck yeah. Well, Bob, thanks for joining me today. Aside from that, tell us your favorite place that you want them to follow you. Is it X, Facebook? Like, where's the one site aside from the Rumble that you want them to find you?
Well, I was going to say the Rumble is number one, because that's what I've got to build. Go to Rumble and subscribe and follow to that channel. Strictly Speaking, Unfiltered with Bob Frantz. But you know what? All my other socials are on my actual website, which is where you can also subscribe to my newsletter, and that's strictlyspeaking.org. Strictlyspeaking.org. If you go to that, you'll see a little, the little icons for all the other socials that I'm on, and then you can also subscribe to the newsletter.
Excellent. Yes, at the bottom of the screen, I'm showing all of your socials, at least according to what Grok thinks they are. And Grok hallucinates, but
yeah, some of that is wrong because and it's because changed the name of my radio show like 6 years ago from Always Right Radio to Strictly Speaking. Some of that crap is still on there because you can't change the @ handles. So I just give people the actual usernames or the show names. But it's cool. As long as people know where to look, just go to strictlyspeaking.org. You'll find them.
Awesome. Well, Bob, thanks for joining us. And thank you all for being here on the Unhappy Hour, brought to you by the New American Media. We'll be back, tomorrow at noon. We're going to be doing TNAM Daily Show, rifling through the rubbish, separating fake news from fact. And then at, I believe, 3 o'clock, it could be 4 o'clock. I'll keep you posted tomorrow. We are going to be having Strictly Football with myself, Mike Barra, Jim Mitchell, and Ezrael Robinson. That will be tomorrow, Strictly Football, 3 p.m. Eastern. Signing out for everybody out there in the TNAM universe. I appreciate you. I love you. And we will talk to you again soon. Take care, everybody. Peace.